All right, welcome back. This is Inside Pages on Metro Television. And as I did indicate at the very beginning of this show, we have two very important conversations to have this morning. The first one has to do with what happened in Parliament yesterday. 3 new bills have been passed. Now, these 3 new bills that have been passed have impact on your disposable incomes. It would have an impact on how much you pay for the prices of goods and services when they are finally accented into law. Now, Parliament yesterday passed what it calls the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2022, the Growth and Sustainability Levy Bill 2022, the Ghana Revenue Authority Bill 2022, and the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2022. Now, the financial bills presented to Parliament by government, as I did indicate, is seeking to rake in about 4 billion Ghana cedis annually as part of the domestic revenue mobilization efforts by the government. Now, the bills are also crucial to aid government's quest at clinching that board approval that it badly needs so that the IMF deal can kick in. And that's why what happened yesterday happened. But that's the first topic. Then the second topic we intend to look at is that I said, following on the back of the approval of 6 government nominees, there have been some serious criticisms about the biggest opposition party, the NDC. Some have actually even gone to the extent of saying that the NDC's image is now in tatters because some persons within the minority or a minority group within the minority, averagely 25, decided to break ranks and to go against the explicit wishes of the NDC as a political organization, because their principal stance on this matter has been very clear. They say they do not accept or they do not approve the approval, or they do not actually agree to the approval of these government nominees or appointees. But these persons decided to state otherwise or to do otherwise. And so that sort of triggered all kinds of criticisms about the state in which the NDC finds itself. And some have said the image of the party has been hurt so badly, and that it would take a lot for the party to regain the confidence and the trust that Ghanaians have had in them. Now, we're going to subject this narrative to some scrutiny and to find out whether indeed that is the case. Now, when marketing, you can call them experts, say a product has suffered a reputational crisis, what does that mean? What are the ingredients that go into determining that? And how do they intend, or how do the persons who are behind the production of this product fix the reputational crisis that the product has gone through? And so we're going to kickstart this conversation with Dr. Bernard Tutu Boahene. He is a political marketing consultant. He's also a lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. Let's help him, or he's going to help us actually, to navigate around this particular vexed issue. And also, the Member of Parliament for Ketu South, the Honorable Abla Gomashi, Jifa Abla Gomashi, would also give us a thought on this matter. Murtala Mohammed is also a Member of Parliament for the Tamale Central Constituency. He will also be joining us shortly. In fact, he's here with us. You take his seat. Mr. Joe Jackson is also here with us. He is the Director of Business Strategy, or Director of Business Operations with the Dalex Finance. Is also here. He'll give his bite. He also has an opinion to share on this matter. He has a bite on this. He'll take his bite on this matter, and so on and so forth. And then also Michael Niabe is with the Frederick Ebert Foundation, or Stiff Tongue, FSF. He will also be joining us shortly. So let me start with Doc. Doc, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Inside Pages. Good morning, Dr. Bernard Tutu Boahene. Good morning. Please unmute your microphone so that we can hear you, sir. Okay. So whilst at it, let me also welcome the Honourable Member of Parliament for Ketu South constituency. That's the Honourable the Honourable Abla Gomashi. Good morning, Madam. Thank you very much for joining us on Inside Pages. Hello, Madam. Are you with us? Hello.
I'm with you. I could hear the doctor.
Okay,
and
wonderful.
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Honorable Ablaji Fagomashi, thank you very much for joining us as well, and also Dr. Bernard Tutubuahine. So, first, let me start with the Honorable Member of Parliament. Honorable Ablaji Fagomashi, again, let me say a very good morning to you. I want to thank you very much for joining us. So, from where you, first of all, what time did you get home yesterday because of what happened in Parliament? I just want to get the picture correctly before we set off, or before we proceed.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on Metro TV this morning on the show. No, you keep mixing my name up, which is unpardonable, considering you are one of my sons.
Absolutely.
My name is Ablajifa. Not Jifa Ablajifa.
My sincere apologies for that. My sincere apologies.
Apologies accepted.
Right.
I got home, I think a little after 2 a.m. this morning.
A little after 2 a.m. this morning. Must have been a very tedious exercise that happened in Parliament yesterday.
Unbelievably so. But it's not the first time. I think that they gave us a baptism of such I think the first year of my being in Parliament, which is 2021, I think it was. They gave us a taste of it. But yesterday's was on a different level.
Right.
But we survived it. And Mr. Speaker had also told us that we're allowed to get up and stretch and come back and sit in.
Right.
As health people have always advised us, it's good to get up every 2 hours. I've made mine every 1 hour because of some joint issues. So I try to get up every hour or an hour and a half. And then I go back to my seat.
I noticed yesterday, all 136 of you voted against the 3 new bills. Was that a move to sort of redeem what some have said is the dented image of the NDC?
Well, thank God it's dented and not fatal. But I'm not sure that I'll call it an effort to save our dented image. It's just part of the work that we're supposed to do. Now, on a very personal front, you know that I've been fighting this obnoxious tax called luxury tax on sanitary towels, and the evidence is there. I've spoken a lot about it. In fact, yesterday I was even hoping that I'd be allowed to read a statement I'd written on same. So for me, it was just a matter of necessity to vote against it, and thankfully that is a position also of our party and leadership. So it all fell in line perfectly.
Okay. Now let's cut to the chase. And
are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on. So let's now cut to the chase and go and tackle the vexed issue about where the image of the NDC stands at the moment. Now, when you hear people say that based on the fact that you approved government nominees or appointees contrary to the stance that was taken by the mother organization, which is the NDC as a political organization, and the fact that this has severely impaired or severely dented or damaged, in some cases I've heard some people say that, or even hurt your reputation as a political group. Do you agree with those who make that kind of argument?
I understand why they are so hurt and they say stuff like that. And once again, I want to apologize for the injury that we have caused people. But I also want to, in the same space, assure Ghanaians that the NDC is the alternative, and this should not be used as a yardstick to judge us. Even though, as I said, I understand. Ghanaians should look at the insensitive governance that we have endured for the past 6 years and counting, and say that perhaps we goofed, but we are not the ones to suffer the consequences of the choices of the government and, of course, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Look, as we were just saying, whose decision is it to bring more hardship to the people? So that yesterday we were in that chamber struggling to get our colleagues from the other side to join us to reject those taxes that had been brought. Whose decision was it? It's not the NDC. It is the MPP. And so I'm appealing to Ghanaians to, shall we say, temper justice with mercy and deal with the person who is causing us the most stress in this country. I agree that we've had and bruised people's emotions and trust, but who is putting us in this place, in this situation in the first place? What has happened is not fatal. What has happened is a dent, and I agree and I accept it, and I've already apologized. But of course, we have opportunity to rebrand ourselves and to keep faith with the people of Ghana, and so that is what I would say.
Right. So you say that, yes, you agree that you disappointed Ghanaians, but you think that the bigger share of the blame should be laid on the doorsteps of the ruling government because they are the ones who wouldn't listen to calls for them to even downsize their government.
I'm telling you, Muro, that look, the other side of the house, were they also not voted for by Ghanaians? The MPP MPs in Parliament, were they not voted for by Ghanaians? They too were voted for by Ghanaians, and we were voted for by Ghanaians. And we all were hearing what the ground was saying. So why didn't they listen? Why did they still have to bring the people on board? I agree that we are their representatives, but all of us, that's what I'm saying, all of us, the 275 members of Parliament, and now unfortunately 274. And let me pause and give the family of our late colleague, Honorable Basue's family, my deepest condolences. But the 274 of us, we are in there on behalf of the people. If they stop being extremely partisan and agree with us that perhaps this is not the way to go, and for once listen to us and not try to get some of our colleagues on the NDC side to join them in what they are doing, will we be here? We have a lot of ministers of state at the Flagstaff House. What exactly do they do? Are they not already on salary? Could we not have reassigned them and put them in those ministries that needed filling? We're not saying that if the Agric minister has resigned to go and contest, or Honorable Alan Chemache has resigned to go and contest, don't fill that gap. It needed to be filled. It is constitutional.
Okay.
But you already have people who could have done it. And why add on and on and on and on?
Okay.
And if the people of Ghana say that the numbers are too large, you don't have to take it from the NDC. Take it from the people of Ghana who put all of us in power.
All right.
I listened to the people of Ketu South and I voted against it. All right? I voted no, 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 no. Why didn't anybody from their side also vote no, 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 no?
Okay. Let me now go to Dr. Bernard Tutu Buahin. Dr. Bernard Tutu Buahin, I hope we've sorted out the technical issue now.
Yeah, Muro, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Doc. Dr. Bernard Tutu Buahin, thank you very much for joining us on Inside Pages once again. Now, when we say a product, it could be a political organization, could be a human being, could be, there's various definitions of what the product is, or it manifests itself in various forms. So we're looking at a political organization like the NDC as a product. And you, from where you stand, from your standpoint, or from you teach marketing, political marketing for that matter, from where you stand, when we say a political organization has suffered a reputational crisis, what do we mean? And what are the ingredients that go into that? And how is that fixed?
Okay, Muro, good morning. Good morning to Honorable Jafar. I think that when you talk about political products are basically anything of value to the voter. And if I say anything, I want to narrow it into 3-4 perspectives, right? So political products would constitute the people. If I say the people, I'm referring to the political leadership. I am referring to the people who come up to form the political party, including even supporters. Another aspect of a political product has to do with the party itself. The political party that is mandated to mobilize resources, mobilize supports, mobilize leadership, and to go into an election. So that also constitutes a political product. And we talk about policy. That is policy that contains the mind of the political party, is also regarded as a product. And even the communication, the message with which a political party, a candidate, put out there. So basically, you realize that voters would vote for a political party, for a candidate, based on one or a combination of these 4 things. And so you realize that even supporters, somebody would decide to join the NDC, somebody would decide to join the MPP because of certain people within the party, or because of the policy direction of the party, or because of the love, the ideological position of the party, and even the love that they have for the party. Some may also fall in love because of the kind of communication that they receive. And so these are the products. And you see, in marketing or political marketing, we brand products. So these 4 things basically can be branded, and the essence of branding these things is to deliver value, for the voter. So if you are a political leader, the expectation of the voter or your supporters or your followers is that your actions and inactions should communicate some level of value, to that person. The party itself, the policy, in most cases, people will look at the policy that the party has. And that is also, when it is also branded very well, of course, it gives people reason, to also follow up with the party. Now let me go to the substantive issue about reputational, damage that you asked. Any of these products, any of them at all, can suffer, reputational damage. And reputational damage simply, will be described as, a dent as a result of probably failure, as a result of miscommunication, as a result of mistrust, as a result of the party not delivering the set promises that the brand is supposed to deliver. And when these things happen, my recent research indicates that it caused a huge damage, with regards to the credibility of the party. It causes a huge damage, to the image of the party and its candidates and even its leadership, depending on where depending on the source of the damage. And most importantly, it causes a kind of drift, what you call voter migration. And if you are not careful, you may have your constituents which had voted you for a longer period of time, but they may decide to migrate to the other side. And that is what we call a drop in loyalty. All right. So when, a political party, a candidate, a policy suffers that kind of reputational damage, these are some of the consequences that would come. And so it is not something that, as a political marketing consultant or strategist, I would recommend that you build a brand that would suffer this kind of damages. Okay. And of course, that is something that I think that going forward, brands, we build brands and we grow brands, right? So as NDC and MPP begin to grow, they need to understand that some of these mistakes are avoidable, they can be avoided, and that they should be able to focus on brand building. Of course, brand building doesn't take a day. It doesn't take an hour. It is a whole length of time. Okay. Right, and it gathers a lot of experiences. So as you move and you commit mistakes, the most important thing, in fact, I like it when Honorable said that NDC has a chance to rebrand. Yes, of course, rebranding. But for me, it is not necessarily about rebranding, okay, but it has to do with the measures that they put in place, within this short period, all right, to, as it were, correct whatever error that has been caused and which is having some devastating effects, on the perceptions of its followers, on the perception of rational voters, swing voters, and all other voter cohorts.
Okay. Now, because we don't have a lot of time, and just briefly, so what I gather from everything you've said is that, so when there's a brand promise, that's what you promise your customers, and that's what you deliver or perceive to be delivering. Once the gap is big in terms of what you promise and what you deliver, then you suffer a reputational crisis. Now, you have election 2024, which is just around the corner, which is next year. You have said that when you suffer a reputational crisis, it takes a while. It takes a long time for you to redeem it. Is it possible for the NDC to salvage the situation before 2024?
Yes, Muru, I didn't say that if you suffer reputational damage, it will take you a long time to redeem it. I'm saying that brands take a longer time to build.
Right.
All right. So if you pick a brand like Mercedes-Benz, it has been consistent throughout the years in terms of its brand, promises. And so it is noted for something. All right. Now, so I was saying that going forward, political parties would commit errors. But it is not an issue of rebranding, the entire party, but it is an issue of identifying and accepting the fact that I have committed a mistake here and I'm putting in corrective measures to redeem it. So once that is done, then of course you are in business, you are still moving. All right, so that was the point I was making. Now, Muru, I just want us to understand this point that NDC has its vision for 2024, just as the MPP has its own vision for 2024. Obviously, 2024 is an election year. And so MPP believes in breaking the 8. In other words, they want to go beyond that tradition, of the 8-year mandate, and to probably make a history as the first party within, the Fourth Republic that was able to break that jinx. And NDC also feels that it is our time, because MPP has been given, or they've traveled the entire length of the 8 years. And so it is our time to also take up, the ruling of the country. And so NDC is also going into 2024, putting resources together to win the election. Now, with the issue of the NDC, I think that Ghana's politics has actually traveled beyond, partisan politics. It has traveled beyond a focus on core voters. In other words, NDC cannot rely on its own followers, to go into 2024. And it is not possible for NDC with that focus to succeed and to win elections in 2024. In the same way, MPP can also not, decide that they are going to 2024 losing their core supporters. It's not possible. The point I'm trying to make here, Moro, is that both NDC and NPP, given the chance that they are using their own supporters, they are not likely to win elections in Ghana. What they require is the swing voter, the floating voters, the rational voters who don't really have any commitment to any of these two major political parties. And so I believe that if NDC is communicating, yes, it is true that they communicate or deliver a brand or position a brand within the minds of their core supporters. It is also important that they don't forget, the king makers who are the rational floating voters. Their vote matter,
right,
and they are the people who would always be offended by certain communication.
Right.
They are the people who, if you don't take time, they will punish you for certain mistakes that you cause. So, Moro, please, can you let me land?
Yeah, please do. Just that we don't have all day. That's the problem. Yeah.
Okay. So, what I'm trying to make here, trying to communicate here is that, the NDC cannot risk and say that we are communicating to our supporters without considering, their core, the swing voter or the kingmakers. And so I would want to believe that whatever agenda that the NDC is pursuing now, I realize, or my mind tells me, that they are actually focusing on their constituents. But for me, that is a huge mistake. All right. Because the moment the rational voter begins to position you as not being credible, as not being a party that is serious, a party that has what it takes, to lead this country, then we are in trouble, because we are likely to lose, their vote. And so my point is that going forward, whatever policy they are developing for 2024, whatever communication that they are putting together for 2024, and the leadership that they are choosing, of course, they have already selected the leadership, but here, the leadership must be a bit careful. My last point before I exit.
Look, you have just
politics.
Yes, you have just a minute.
No, let me finish this one, then I'll drop.
Okay, just a minute, because we're really running out of time. Yes.
Issues of internal politics, because I realized that after the last election in Parliament, some leadership of the party came out to say that they would track down on all those who didn't vote in support of the party's agenda and pursue them. To me, it wouldn't help the internal political cause of the party. And once you create cracks, divisions, within the party, then that issue of credibility questions and trust issues will begin to come up. And if you are not careful, you suffer for it.
Doc, thank you so very much for your time. I'll take the concluding remarks of Honorable Ablagomashi. Honorable, first of all, how have you been dealing with the anger, the disappointment? Are you still getting calls? Are people threatening they won't vote for the NDC again? What are you telling them? Do you believe the party has what it takes to be able to redeem its quote and unquote lost image before the 2024 elections?
Thank you, Moro. I appreciate the angles from which the doctor has spoken. I took a course during my first degree in the business school, the School of Administration, and I did marketing. So he's really exemplified what they taught us. And coming back to your question now, Moro, what I hear the people tell me is that we have bruised their hearts, their egos, their trust, and we need to redeem ourselves. That has been said loudly and clearly to me, and I keep assuring them that they should look at our track record as a party in power and in opposition and see that we do have the goodwill, we do appreciate their goodwill, and we are trying to reciprocate the gesture by also listening to them. Every now and again, that's in my language, to wait, and the person you send to fetch water is the one who can bring the pot. And so they should take it as a slip that we have caused, but we will redeem ourselves. I also hear that a lot of anger has been directed at us on social media. I hope that those on social media can hear us also on television and take our apology for what it is, that we really do appreciate the love, and we will give back that love. And I want to urge the floating voters and even the core NDC members that we are in this together. We are in this together. Whether you are inside Parliament or outside Parliament, we are in this country together, and we are all feeling the pain and the anguish that we have been put through. And it's good to blame us when we go wrong, but it's better that we make sure that even from outside, we speak louder and demand more from the people who take the decisions that are brought to Parliament.
All right.
If President Akufo-Addo takes a wrong decision in policy direction,
okay,
let's boldly say it, as we used to do when the NDC was in power.
All right. All right. Honorable, thank you so very much for also joining us on Inside Pages. So it was a pleasure talking to you, madam.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, that's the Honorable Ablago Mashi, Jifago Mashi. He's the Member of Parliament for the Ketu South constituency. Also, I want to thank Dr. Bernard Tutubwahine. He's a political marketing consultant as well. Let me come back in-house. The Member of Parliament for Tamale Central has joined us here. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. You still look very sleepy, and it's perfectly understandable.
2 hours.
Wow. So you got home around 2:30?
No, I got home around 1.
1 a.m.
1, yeah, 1 something. In fact, it was a little past 1, and I had to pray tahajjud. Right. You understand tahajjud in the month of Ramadan.
Right.
We're encouraged to pray. So I prayed tahajjud up to 3:30, 3:40.
Right.
Then I had to take my suhoor. And the moment you take your suhoor, Fajr is just around the corner. So I had to pray Fajr.
Right.
By the time I slept, it was 5 o'clock. So I slept for just 2 hours.
Whoa. Well, it shows.
I needed to wake up at 7 to be able to take my bath and then rush here.
Wow. Very strong.
Well, I'm just sacrificing.
And also very committed to this program. That's another thing. Let me also welcome Michael Niabe. He's with the Frederick Ebert Foundation, Stiff Tongue. But he has a big announcement for you as well this morning. That's his prerogative, whether he wants to make it.
I saw it out there, but that's okay.
Yes, I found it just quite recently, and I have no doubt at all that he will make whatever he wants to become. That's when he decides to, make that big announcement. That's if he wants to. But let's do this quickly. Michael. Oh, sorry. Do you want to come in, or Michael wants to come in? You want a big joke? No, you and I were talking 2 days ago over the phone, and one thing she said to me was that, look, the NDC must not take the backlash for granted. They must not underestimate the reactions that have greeted the approval of the ministers, because you have a personal experience. You want to share with us?
Yes, and I'm sharing my own personal experience.
Yes.
First of all, I'm not an NDC member.
Yeah.
But I've been very vociferous on the issue of cutting down the size of government.
Right.
That I have always been.
Right.
So for me, when the NDC said we won't approve, go and use existing ministers and deputy ministers to fill in that position, I was cheering for the NDC.
Right.
And I thought it was time that the parliament told the president exactly how we feel. And it was interesting that the NDC also made a categorical statement and took a position, right? Attribute and remember that all this came into play with having changed the leadership in parliament, and expectations were high. Now let me fast forward to my own experience. At Delex Finance, we use agents, and I have quite a number of agents in the eastern sector of this country, eastern being Volta region and the eastern region. And so on Thursday morning, I drove to Ho to meet the agents. These are SHS graduates and some university graduates who live in rural and peri-urban areas. They are not urban folk who are selling our loans in these areas. And we had a debate, so there was a lot of discussion. And then we got to this issue of how we are being affected by the economy. The anger was palpable.
I see.
And it was palpable. You could almost feel it. And the sentiment was that, don't mind these people. They all think of themselves. They're talking about getting money for elections. Well, our MPs, and remember that, and this was what was striking. One guy stood and said, will our MPs stop thinking of themselves and think about us for once and how we feel and what we want them to do? Now, when you see the important word is our MPs. It's not, this was not the MPP sympathizers are all victorious. So they don't really have to say
that's why they're happy.
They're happy. These were NDC. There's one guy we call him regional Delex NDC rep, because every Deba he's the one to take a strong NDC position. Right. He was so angry. Now, it's not so much about that the reputation cannot be repaired or redeemed. It is that, see, on top of all the hardships we are facing, we've lost 60% of our purchasing power. Right? If you were paid, whatever you were paid this time last year, you've lost 60% of it just by the reduction in exchange rate alone. Forget about inflation. People are suffering. And they, for once, they felt that their representatives will do something. I'm not talking about meeting my reps in the Ashanti region. I'm talking about rural folk, what we call the salt of the earth. But they are also the opinion leaders. And their anger was there. So, and I'm not talking about my own
personal feelings.
When I saw the results, I felt like marching to Parliament House to hold my own one-man placard to say, guys, don't let us down. But that's different. I'm just saying that don't underestimate what we're talking about. And this is a meeting with people from the Volta region. I met over 200 people, my agents and my staff, and they are not.
So based on that experience, do you feel that the NDC has a lot of work to do?
Well,
in terms of bringing back the trust and the hope and the love that these guys have for the party.
I'll tell you this: those who will suffer are going to be the MPs, not the MPP party and NDC party.
I see.
Because the sentiment was that our party leaders
was directed more at the MPs.
It was at the MPs. It was not at NDC. That's a very important distinction. The anger was not at the party because but
that won't be fair. Because not all the MPs voted in one direction. I mean, we saw what happened. Majority.
But what they're saying is that you got a significant number of MPs breaking ranks.
Okay.
It's not. If I tell you that it was at the party, if you can have anything like a party.
Okay.
Right. So that the interesting things, I don't think it will damage, for example, whoever becomes the presidential candidate.
Right.
But if you as an MP there's a perception that you were, and there are perceptions about people who are part of the breakaway groups.
Right. That you were compromised.
They were compromised.
You could be in trouble. Let me ask you this just briefly on this. The theory of the floating or the swing voter. Can I categorize you? Can I categorize you under? Can I say you're a swing voter, or you're not? You
see, listen. I don't really believe that swing voters carry as much weight as you think.
But no. Maybe when I land my question, you'd understand. Let's assume you're a swing voter.
I'm a neutral.
You're a neutral. Okay.
So I take a decision at every polling day
based on certain indicators, factors, etc. Right. Would such a thing, what happened in Parliament, is that capable of shaping your opinion as to how you vote or inform your choices in terms of who you vote for?
Here's the thing. It will influence my MP.
Oh, okay.
It will influence my MP. And if I was evaluating the people who are standing for my MPs,
I see.
And there was an MP that I felt had put his own election needs before the cry of the people of Ghana.
Okay. You could punish that MP.
It's not a matter of punishing him.
You will punish that MP.
I don't identify with him. His values are not my values.
Interesting. Michael, I don't want you to come in, or you want Mutala to? I don't know you want to come in? Okay, good. Now, I don't know where you stand on this. You watched it too, and the whole. I'm sure you also. I'm sure as a Ghanaian you have a lot of NDC friends, and I'm sure you got a lot of calls as well. What were the sentiments that were being expressed by these chaps who called you, and do you feel, based on what you've heard them say, if you were to advise the NDC or if you were to relay those sentiments to the NDC, would you say that the party is in deep trouble and has a lot of work to do? Or you can say, well, there are issues, deal with it. I don't know how you intend to. What was the reaction like, and how would you relay that to the NDC if you're going to be advising them on what to do?
Based on the party and the feedback I received, obvious disappointment.
Right.
I mean, the party's base was glaringly disappointed at what happened in Parliament. And one may want to perhaps look at this from, one can say, a partisan perspective,
right.
But I think that this perhaps may have been the only opportunity where, for those who may look at this from a partisan perspective, one can say that a partisan consideration merging with even a national interest.
Right.
Because it's of national concern, a bloated government, as we have under Akufo-Addo government.
In a struggling economy.
Precisely.
Right.
And so there's this national thinking conversation going on. We've even had ambassadors talking about this, the size of government.
True.
You get it? So Ghanaians have been worried. So it's a national issue.
So for you, this is what differentiates this particular event from what has happened in the past.
Precisely.
Okay.
And so, I mean, and the issue about injury to the party, I think it is minimal. Because the party was very much clear
right.
on the party stance as far as the bloated government is concerned.
Right.
Indeed, after the incident, the party issued a statement. The presumptive leader of the party, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, issued a statement.
Right.
I mean, expressing his disappointment about the events that happened. So clearly, the party can be insulated from what happened.
Right.
It's the MPs, and this is the issue now. I mean, it's difficult getting to know basically how things panned out in Parliament.
Who did what?
Not even about who did what, because there are indications. But you see, these are members of Parliament. There is this assumption that because you belong to a bloc, you must necessarily vote en bloc.
Right.
And I think that in the House of Parliament, there are varied, interconnected relationships here and there. Some may be classmates to members from the other side. Some may have some business dealings with others in Parliament. So many things may be going on. So my reflection point has been that what was the extent of prepping or psyching the minds of the minority that, listen, this is the thing. Going beyond mere statements of, yes, we wanted to save our democracy. I'm happy the member of parliament is here. Right. Whether there's been some time to engage, because this is a serious issue. But you must also be real to the issues. That, listen, in the House, there are varied connections, there are even ethnic considerations as well, right, that sometimes come to play as far as deciding to approve a nominee or vote for a cause whatsoever. And so, having regard to all these underlying issues, then as the organization championing this, or in this case the political party, you look at how to address. I don't know whether there was enough time to also look at these underlying issues. But clearly, the party's base has spoken. They haven't been happy. I think on your sister station's network, was it TV3 or so? Right. I saw them listed a number of, I think about 7 points. I don't know whether that was coming from the party or from our caucus in parliament. Mm-hmm. That so they are looking at those who may have some relationship with those from the majority side. They are looking at first-time MPs. They are looking at quite a number of indicators were listed. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how the party really is going to fish out who and who did what. We've seen on the WhatsApp page of the General Secretary, and I know Comrade Mutala has expressed some reservations on that, precisely. And clearly, it means that some have showed evidence. Mm. And I saw a video circulating of him as well, yeah, indicating that this was the direction he went.
Except that he didn't put it out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a friend of his taste.
Great.
We trust that, but this is one of those things.
The whip system on the minority side, I mean, there's an extent to which the whip can go, of course, by persuading members to go a particular direction or course. But members have their own considerations, largely. And so for me, the bigger question is, did we do the background check, the background conversations properly? And mind you, this happened just some few weeks with this whole transition processes in Parliament on the minority side. And these are some of the real issues we need to look at. Because going forward, you still need the minority as a group, as a bloc, to decide on issues that are of national interest like this. Mm. Because as far as I heard, for instance, the former minority whip, Muntaka Muhammad, saying that, yes, some issues in Parliament are, of course, go beyond partisan considerations.
In fact, his problem is that there's too much partisanship in Parliament. And that if that continues, there won't be a Ghana anymore.
But I've been struggling to understand what that meant or what that means.
Basically, there are certain policies that have government, the two sides must come together and say, look, let it go.
I agree, but not on this.
Quibble or
I agree, but not on this. And where you take it from the national perspective of a bloated government, and you also take it from a partisan perspective, where, with I also work on issues, a report that came out, Brian, for instance, was indicted in the report.
So why pass him?
Precisely. So this is where the party's base. Yeah. This is where the party's base would have a cause to be angry.
In fact, I've heard some people say you could have passed anybody, but not Brian Champon. You know, it's something about this Brian Champon thing. Yeah.
You get it. So it's unfortunate this happened, but I think the NDC as a political party hasn't had the image battered that much. I think individual MPs, and unfortunately, or fortunately, they are heading towards the primaries just in 6 weeks. To go and account.
But Michael, when you hear people say, in fact, as soon as it happens, you hear people say NDC 4DA, NDC 4DA. You don't believe in this collateral damage argument.
But you see, the issue about
you get what I mean.
You see, the issue about
people
NDC
aren't taking time to differentiate between the minority caucus and the party as a Congress.
The issue about NDC 4DA, I've been reflecting on this, and I think It appears to be the case that many have not been that charitable with the NDC as compared to dealings with the NPP.
Okay, explain that.
Which, for me, raises serious issues, because when you look at what have happened under this current NPP administration from 2017, never in the history of our republic, I mean, the things happening under Nana Addo Akufo-Addo and the NPP government. And yet, the way we approach things of this nature, particularly when dealing with the NPP, appears with a kid's glove. I mean, we...
you feel Ghanaians are soft on the NPP?
Precisely.
As compared to the NDC? You mean Ghanaians are harsher when they're dealing with the NDC than when they're dealing with the NPP?
That is my observation. And that is unfortunate.
That's an interesting one. It would be interesting to ask BG.
Because, I mean, in same parliament, Doctor mentioned that the NPP also claims they would want to break the 8.
Right.
So they equally have a responsibility to show to us good governance. They equally have a responsibility to show to us that they believe in a lean government. They equally have a responsibility to show to us that they listen to the plight of Ghanaians. They equally have a responsibility to show that they are a listening government. But the NPP doesn't care.
No, but doesn't the anger that Ghanaians have expressed against what the NDC has done, I'm not one of those who say majority of Ghanaians, so there's some Ghanaians, because I don't have any data to reference, but don't you rather feel that the anger that Ghanaians have expressed about what the NDC did is also a reflection of how much trust and the degree of reliance that they have on the NDC? Otherwise, I mean, if I don't trust that you can do something and you don't even do it, I won't be angry.
Well, so I'm saying the trust...
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, the trust is still intact. We need to differentiate between the party as an organization,
the minority,
and some members, not even the entire minority, but some members of the minority who decided to go their own way,
right,
as against the wishes of the party.
Right.
And so the party's image, as far as I'm concerned, is still intact, is solid. And I mentioned the party has come out, issued statements. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama also expressed his disappointment. And so people are reading these things and connecting the dots. In fact, that is why people are able, or they are ready to fish out the members on the side of the minority,
okay,
who may have committed this.
Right.
And there are interesting revelations coming out.
Mutala, I've heard some people say, be worried about, yes, your party base, but be more worried about the floating voter. Because the floating or the swing voters don't have a particularly sentimental or emotional attachment to any political organization. They swing because it depends on what they are thinking and what is happening. From where you sit, and that's my first question, and then again, how have you so far dealt with the calls? Are you still receiving calls? Are you still having to explain to your party supporters what happened and trying to calm them down and assuage their feelings? For me, that's the first question before you come to this, before you respond to my issue about you've heard the swing voters much more than even your party base.
Good morning, Muru. And good morning to my other colleague panelists. And
I can see some of them are still calling you. I can tell. The phone is ringing.
For every MP, the calls will come. And good morning to our cherished viewers, especially the good people of Tamale Central, and Ramadan Mubarak.
Oh, Ramadan Mubarak. But it hasn't been easy, has it? In terms of the avalanche of phone calls.
Mura, I don't know whether I should discuss this topic, one, as a politician, or two, as a political science student.
As an academic, basically.
Either way, people would have problems with it. But I'll try and see if I can blend.
You can match the two, that's fine.
The two.
Right.
Muru, I'm doing some work
okay,
on Parliament, and perhaps you know, particularly looking at the independence of the legislative arm.
Of course.
And it's interesting what informed the decision of members of Parliament when it comes to issues of policy and issues of taking decisions specifically to elect or to approve or not approve, ministerial nominees, taking into consideration the experiences we have had in this Fourth Republic, I think that in 1992 there was a boycott of the entire government architecture by the NPP. So you had virtually one party. Of course, there were some independents, and those independents stood the test of time. And 1996, the NPP came in, and there were some problems once again with regards to some of the appointments. You remember the appointment of my former boss, Dr. Spio Gabra.
Right.
Unknown to many people, the opposition to that and the reasons that were used to justify his disqualification came within from the NDC. 2000, we had similar things happen in 2004, and we have this repeatedly. But what I would want to say...
The point being, it's not new.
It's not new.
Okay.
By the way, and it is important I state this. Let me just finish that before I come. I don't want to twist things. What I would say is that in the Fourth Republic, I stand to be corrected, I have not seen where Parliament failed to approve ministerial nominees, regardless of all the problems I have raised. In the Fifth Parliament, where interestingly the current National Secretary of the NDC was involved, the MPP issued a statement asking their people not to approve Honorable Fifi Kwete. The NDC had 113 seats. The MPP had 108 seats, so it was just a difference of 5. We had 4 independents, PNC 2 and CPP 1. And mind you, if you combined, if you like, the neutral MPs, and neutral here, those MPs who were neither representing the NDC nor the MPP, it was a total of 7, right? That's 4 PNC, 4 independent, 2 PNC, and then 1 CP. Mind you, those independent members of Parliament were people who either fell off with their political party, either the NDC or the MPP, and they went as independent.
Right.
But the point I want to make is that with all the concerns expressed by the NPP as a political party, and the concerns also expressed or agreed with by some of the other 7 members of Parliament, Honorable Fifi got 117 votes. So what it means is that, and we are assuming that all the 113 NDC members voted in his approval.
Right.
It means that the other 4 could either come from the MPP or from any of the other 7 members of Parliament.
Right.
No one can tell.
True.
But the bottom line is that he got more than the representation that the NDC had.
Right.
What we have experienced is a disqualification of ministerial nominee at the committee level, and that's why I made reference to even the issue of Dr. Spio Gabra, but where it comes to that. And interestingly, maybe when I finish with the work, I could share to the Ghanaian public at the appropriate time what informed the decisions people make. Some of those decisions are informal reasons. If you go through a plethora of literature, almost every academic or scholars talk about either the whip system influencing decisions taken by members of Parliament or financial inducement, and that is not even that much. But not much or virtually nothing is said about the informal factors, and those factors would have time to discuss them at the appropriate time. Now, let me state, there are 2 people who belong to a political party and who would represent that political party in Parliament, whether NDC or MPP. Now, for you to be a member of Parliament, you must only be a member of Parliament either on the ticket of a political party or as an independent member of Parliament. Now, if you are coming on the ticket of a political party, you are representing that party, and in fact, your filing fee is paid by the party on whose ticket you want to go to Parliament. I don't think that I am incapable of paying my filing fee or any of my colleagues, but the NDC paid our filing fee. So you are in the Parliament first and foremost representing a political party and your constituents. And that is why when you cross carpet, you will lose your seat, because when you cross carpet, your seat will be declared vacant. Now, in the eyes of all this, assuming the NDC were to say that we have evidence that this person defied the party's directives, and therefore betrayed the party. And as a party, we decide that that member of parliament is sacked from the party. The moment you are sacked from the party, then your seat also becomes untenable. And therefore, the party would have to communicate to Mr. Speaker that Mr. A.B. are no longer members of the NDC. And the Speaker would have no option than to communicate to the Electoral Commission that this particular seat is vacant. A classical example has to do with Professor Waisene, my lecturer and my father. When he cross-carpeted from the NDC to NPP, automatically the seat became vacant. And that was my first elections in the general elections. In the 2006, I contested with my senior brother, Honorable Yunus Afuseni, where 8 members who contested, and Honorable Yunus Afuseni won and became the first. That was the first time he represented the people of Tamale Central. So these are things. Moro, I voted, and I said the 2 people who represent. There are people who are either NDC or MPP because that is the political party and the ideology of the party that resonates with either their ideological standpoint or their principles. And there are other people who come to parliament on the ticket of a political party because they see that party as a vehicle of coming to parliament. For example, take an NDC stronghold or an MPP stronghold. Someone may not agree with the principles and the ideological position of the NDC or the MPP, but he wants to come to parliament. And the only means by which he can guarantee of coming to parliament is to align himself with the party that dominates the constituency that he wants to use as a vehicle to come to parliament. Such a person comes to parliament, he may not necessarily be obliged with the directives and the position of the party because the ideology and the beliefs and the principles of the party do not resonate with who he is as a person. He only uses the party as a vehicle to come to parliament. Right. Now, people like us, and I can speak for myself, my ideological position, my principles, everything resonates with the NDC as a political party. Look, my grandfather, and I have said it time and again, was one of the founding fathers of the UP. My father was a known CPP person. As a matter of fact, my father didn't like NDC. And there were justifiable reasons why he didn't like NDC. And I can state this. It really has to do with what happened in 1981-82 when the Tamale market was banned. My father was a businessman. His stores, my mother's, my stepmother's. But my father never had any problem with us using NDC as a political party that we want to belong. So regardless my personal and family hate, I chose the NDC because that is the political party I feel as a person resonates with my ideological position and principles. Right. So under no circumstance would I want to betray the party. So there's no doubt whatsoever that I voted, and ever since I went to parliament, in the CIF parliament and in this parliament, I have always voted in support of the position of the NDC, regardless maybe how I may feel about that position, because I believe in that principle. Now, my problem with what our General Secretary did, which has a bearing with all the comments made, is that some of us, we voted and our videos and some, if you like, pictures, and some of us, the reason why we even had our voice in it, if our voices were not even in it, people could have said maybe someone's video. I get what I'm saying. We did all those things. How about those who voted in support of the party's position, yet they never took pictures, yet they never took videos? Now, if the serialization and, if you like, perceived betrayal of the NDC is anchored on those who provided pictorial or video evidences as to how they voted, how about those who voted in support of the party position, but they didn't do that because there wasn't any formal communication that anybody who is going to vote should do this? And that was the problem I have. And I'm saying this because if you listen to my brother and also my big brother here, we are getting into primaries. And we know what is going on in the various consensus. Moro, don't get me wrong. The NDC people are absolutely justified to be angry. And to be very honest, the position the NDC took publicly prior to the voting was not just a position that was exclusive to NDC or people like this. It was a position that resonated even with the people from whom we are going to beg for money. The IMF position is that you should cut your expenditure. The NDC position is that cut expenditure. Civil society position is that cut expenditure. Media position, cut expenditure. In fact, the ordinary. No, that's what I'm saying. That I mean, to be the height of naivety to assume that the Bretton Woods institutions are just institutions. They are controlled by the West. So that was everybody's position. And in fact, there were MPP members of parliament with whom we had confidential conversations who agrees with the NDC's position that we needed to cut expenditure. The betrayal of not just the NDC mass following, but the people of this country, the embassies, and even the Bretton Woods, the IMF, is because people lost confidence in the MPP. And they felt that we had a golden opportunity to send a message to the government that Ghanaians are not happy with this.
Okay.
We do know that the MPP has more representation now because of what happens than us. But we needed to have had our numbers counted.
Okay.
So if we go and vote, and we had our 136 counted, and the MPP had their 137 or 138, I wouldn't have been worried. I don't think the General Secretary or anybody would have been worried.
Right.
But you see, what is so hurtful about it is that we had the opportunity to have defeated it. Because on that day, and I've been saying, God is speaking to NPP in a language that they refuse to understand. Unfortunately, we lost a colleague of ours.
All right.
Ajua Safo was not there. So the number of the MPP was reduced to 136. The NDC had 136 in parliament.
So you could have defeated the
And
motion.
per the standing orders, any motion which outcome of voting is par, that motion is deemed to be defeated. So if we had all our 136 voting against this motion, and let's assume that all the 136 MPP members at that time voted in support of this motion, the motion would have been defeated. And one could imagine what the NDC would have. But let me just conclude on this. You see, to be very honest, I think that in as much as people are justified to attack all of us as members of parliament, despite my video being out, I cannot play saint here. It's a collective damage. And therefore, I also take responsibility with what some of our colleagues did. I mean, the betrayal, because one, you can't sit here and say because I have video evidence of how I voted. If it was good, I would have taken the credit. And therefore, if there is a blame, all of us, the 136 members of parliament, we must, however, how do we get out of this? The only way we can get out of this as a caucus is to reassure the people of this country. But I'll conclude that, look, we have had about 5 incidences where the NDC proved to Ghanaians that we could be trusted. One, in the elections of the speaker. We voted to elect the speaker.
You know, usually when it comes to things,
I'm coming to that. 2, the rejection of the budget. We all saw what happened.
Yes.
We rejected the budget except what they did, the shenanigans, and disregarded the constitution and standing orders. The e-levy. The rejection of the e-levy, and we saw what they did. Shredded, ramshackled the standing orders of parliament. Unfortunately, we failed to deliver in two matters. Delivered in 3. But you see, the people of this country and the NDC following are not interested in what we delivered. They're only interested in what
you didn't deliver.
So what I would say is that we have an opportunity to do that. Moro, I want to express my sincere and profound condolences to our colleague who passed, unfortunately. A gentleman I served in the Public Accounts Committee with him. And I also want to use this to wish my nephew a speedy recovery. And to reiterate how cruel this government is. Yesterday, that colleague of ours was late.
Was just about to come there. We'll get there. So don't worry, because that's the next topic. There was a question about swing voters. He didn't, but that's fine.
Oh no,
he didn't respond to the swing voters. That's fine. That's okay. We got some time. When I come back. No. Sorry. When I come back, you can do that.
I mean,
I know. The angles are many. So.